it
Yeah.
feels like the holds are made for the route, right? Like if you took those holds and put them in a gym and tried to like put them on different routes at different angles and different moves, they might just feel wrong, and
Hmm.
they just work really
Yeah.
well in the way they're supposed to be grabbed or stepped on.
Kara Norton is a software engineer and former route setter living in Brooklyn. I had the pleasure of projecting China Beach with her in October, and she made super rapid progress, in particular on the top boulder problem. I really liked hearing her thoughts as a setter on what makes China Beach great and nerding out with her on the simulators that each of us set. And we also circle back at the end to get her thoughts on what people would say if China Beach were actually scanned and set in a gym. Along the way, we hear about the first time she saw China Beach, and it really got to the heart of why I love doing this podcast. By focusing on this one route, we get a lens to examine what we love about climbing in its most essential form. I mean, also, China Beach is awesome. There's some footage of her on the route and on her simulator, which you can see if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube. And as always, timestamps and links are in the description below. Hey, Kara. So, I mean, while we're
Hey,
waiting for Michael to connect, I was chatting with Jason Danforth, and he actually mentioned that you'd transitioned to software engineering.
yeah,
So you're like a full-time software engineer.
yeah, totally. Like for like a year and a half now. Yeah. It's been good. It's different, but I really like it.
Welcome to the world of tech. I do product. I
Thanks.
don't do engineering, but there's a good community of climbers in tech. What
I
kind of
know,
software
yeah.
engineering do you do?
So I've been doing front end software engineering, and yeah, I feel like I was like studying for a while. I was getting my master's in computer science while I was route setting. And so while I was like working at the gym and stuff and talking to people about it, it felt like half the community was in tech or something. It just like feels like there's so much overlap there.
That's cool. And front end, you're like so close to design. Like one of my friends, Mark Bourguignon, is the CTO, co-founder of Kaya. Uh, he's also like made some analogies about how front end and the design aspect is kind of similar to route setting because he used to be a route setter as
Oh,
well.
that's cool. Yeah, yeah, I totally can see that like parallel. Um I feel like you kind of consider some similar things like I mean, I'm when I'm route setting, like I'm mostly, unless I'm setting a China Beach simulator, I'm mostly setting for people to like enjoy the boulders, right? Like I want them to have fun, so um trying to set something that makes sense, that's intuitive, that is an enjoyable experience is, the same high level concept, I guess.
Super cool. I bet. Yeah, we'll get more into how you think about routes and from your route setting history. Oh, I think Michael's coming on right now. Cool. Awesome. So excited.
Only
You're
serious
here.
talk right now.
Only serious talk.
Nothing off topic.
How's your day going, Kara? It's kind of like afternoon there. You're calling out
Yeah,
of New
it's
York.
like, yeah, I'm in New York. I'm in my apartment and yeah, having a good day. It's Wednesday. Wednesdays are always kind of weird if you ask me, but
So, software engineer during the week, route setting when you need to help out. How do you get into route setting? Like, what do you like about it?
so yeah, I got into route setting kind of by a bit of happenstance, I guess. Like getting into route setting, I think to people can seem like kind of a mystery or something, like there
Yeah.
aren't a lot of route setters in any given city because, there's just not a lot of gyms, there's not a lot of positions. So it's kind of like a limited pool of people in some way. Um, and when I moved to New York almost 6 years ago, I started working at one of the climbing gyms. and I was working front desk. And a couple months into working there, one of the route setters left. So um, there was like this opening, and one of the, well, I guess like the two of the route setters, the head route setter and the owner of the gym, kind of were talking about filling that space, I guess. I was at a rock climbing competition actually, and so was our head route setter, and he like recognized me from the front desk, I guess. This is what he
Mm.
told me. Um and was like, maybe Carol would be interested. Like, Carol works at the gym, blah blah blah. They asked me if I'd be interested. I said, hell yeah. I'm so psyched on rock climbing. I'd love to.
It's
And
like the
so,
dream,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, it is the dream. I was like, sure. Like, I'm so nervous, and the group of route setters that I joined has so much experience, and they all climb like double digits. And at the time, like, I was not doing that for sure, and I had like little to no route setting experience. So I was very intimidated, but also like so excited. And yeah, it was like the right place at the right time kind of thing, I think.
Yeah, it's how do you even get route setting experience before you actually route set? Unless you have a home wall or a co-op or a friend's wall, it's
Yeah,
kind of hard to get that experience.
totally. I think like, yeah, unless, you go to a gym that's pretty loose about who can route set and when. A lot of people don't get the opportunity. I think there are like route setting clinics you can go to, but of course, like those cost money, and um, those spaces tend to fill up really fast too. And they're really not held super often that I know of. So yeah, getting route setting experience is pretty hard, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know when I started climbing, it was like 2004 or something, and they would essentially just ask anyone that showed the ability to rock climb to set a route or two.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's totally not like that anymore, obviously, right? For
yeah. I
better.
mean, yeah, I think it's definitely evolving, right? Like, I, this is like, I feel like this is an ongoing conversation about route setting and the quality of routes, and how to like even make that valuable to the owners of the gym and the business. And it's kind of like this like ongoing, I don't know, it feels like struggle, I guess, to kind of like put value and invest
Hmm.
in route setting and your route setters. But like, if the gym is a business, I think that value, like, they don't really see that value a lot of times. If their goal is to just get like a lot of people in the gym, I think that people like gyms these days are starting to see that it's important and see the value. But
Yeah,
like, back in the day, I
it
think
wasn't
that
always like
was
that. Yeah,
not like that. Yeah.
yeah. I know some, like, I lived in Colorado Springs for a long time. Well, for like 4 years. And definitely the gyms uh, there and in the front range seemed to really get it. Like, they had full time route setters that had salaries and benefits and stuff like this. And so, I mean, that was good to see in terms of like the industry
Hmm.
moving forward. Um, like, hopefully, more gyms all over the place are doing things like that when they
Yeah,
can.
that's huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it is pretty intense labor.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think as climbers, like,
And highly
it's
skilled
really
labor.
important. Yeah, but it's like hard to quantify, right? Like, there's no like, unless you like, I know there's the USA climbing like
Hmm.
route setting levels, but usually gyms, well, the gyms that I've experienced, like, it's not like a requirement, if you're psyched on
Yeah.
rock climbing and you can pick up a drill and you can put holds on the wall, you can set a route. and
Mm.
so there's not like a real quantifiable like I'm at this level, oh, I know this skill, I like can put this on my resume. It's hard to uh make it a trade sort of.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm level 5 in parkour style boulder.
Yeah.
Ooh, first of all, I like that we're spending time on this because I mean we will get to China Beach eventually, but we haven't had a route setter on the podcast, and I think being really involved in that at a high level gives you a very different way of thinking about movement and route quality. And so, yeah, I'm glad we're digging into this. One question I have: I'm not familiar with the levels of route setting. Like, what do those even mean, and what's your kind of like opinion of those levels as it maps to being a good setter in a commercial gym? Because in a commercial gym, increasingly the product is the route setting. Like that is what the product is, but it is subjective, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't know the levels very intimately. What I do know is that I think it's catered towards like competition setting and setting for different like USA climbing events. Um, and so at the gym that I route set at, it's like a totally different style. Um, and we set I I don't know how to say, but like yeah, at the gym I set at, it's more like traditional type rock climbing. You think of um, really steep stuff on holds. You're grabbing and less like kind of like parkour type movements and the like dynamic or risky kind of competition style climbing. And there's not a lot of vertical and not a lot of slab at the gym. And so yeah, I think the style is just so different. But yeah, the levels like yeah, I mean I don't have like a real like knowledge base about it, so I feel like I can't truly speak on it. Um, but I think that by the time I think there's maybe 4 or 5 levels, and you at each level, I think you need to attend a clinic. And then as the levels go up, you also need to route set, maybe apprentice a higher level route setter at a, like setting for a USA climbing event or something like that. So then you start gaining hours and you kind of like accumulate like all these route setting hours and experience and mentoring is my impression of it. I don't know if you have anything to say, Michael, about it, or if you know anything else.
Uh, I'm I know only one of my climbing partners had a level 1 certification. And I'm looking at the USA Climbing website right now. Those are the only 2 things that I know.
Okay.
It's not,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's really about competitions, and so you know that while a lot of the skills probably translate, that's a very different goal. You're thinking about things like separation, and you know, you're thinking about a balance of difficult, effortful, stress, like pumpy and risky movement to try and like balance the challenge across different boulders, which is probably similar dimensions to how you would think about it in a commercial gym, but with a very different end goal. It's like a totally
Yeah.
different design challenge.
It's also probably something that is more helpful if a setter's trying to break into like a difficult market. You know, like the Front Range or, you know, one of the big California gyms or something like that. Then maybe something like this on your route setting resume would help you out. Or, you know, perhaps you like form connections at the clinic or whatever.
Yeah,
You know, like
totally.
your gym, which it looks amazing. But
GP81, by the way, in
it
Brooklyn.
does sort of look like, and this is like not putting it down at all. This is like a huge plus towards it. It looks like it was sort of sent here from the past, from like
Yeah.
from like a golden era of like serious rock climbing gyms. And I don't want to sound like an old fuddy-duddy. I really like big like commercial gyms. I think they're kind of awesome also. But you know, there's always still like a place in my heart for a gym like that. The one that
Yeah.
you're at.
Yeah. It feels like they kind
Yeah.
of serve a different purpose.
Yeah. And
Each of
I
them.
think it's the world's big enough for yeah.
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 Oh, I want to double down on that because I was able to visit recently on a trip to New York, and that's how I've tried to describe it to people here. Like, this is a gym that exemplifies like the best of gyms 15, 20 years ago. Like what I remember as a great climbing gym. People really seem to know each other, and they're sessioning together. They're not just sessioning next to each other. And you know, the climbs are fun, but they're also a little bit more outdoor leaning, kind of old school setting, and yeah, it's got a really special vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a gym in Colorado Springs that I think is maybe similar, even though I haven't been to this one in New York City, called the Springs Climbing Center. It's where like Megan Mascarenas trains. I don't know if you guys remember her
Yeah. I
from like
remember
a couple
her.
of years ago. Anyway, it's awesome. It's just like got awesome boulders, good community, you know, not too many extra bells and whistles.
Yeah. It sounds similar. Yeah.
What do you think goes into that, Kara, as an insider?
Goes into what part exactly?
Like makes GP81 special? Because there's
Oh,
a big commercial gym literally across the street.
yeah.
And also,
Yeah.
like, you could envision a place like that opening and no one getting it, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, I know it's kind of going against the grain these days, with the trends of gyms and things. And I think based on like knowing the owners and like working there for several years and stuff, like I think that I think the owners have been in the New York City climbing scene for a while, and I think they knew based on the people they know and their friends that there was like a want for something like this where you could, as a climber, go to the gym and really put in like a solid climbing session and feel like you got what you wanted out of it for like climbing, community, training, all that. Just rock climbing and training, So, yeah, I think it's kind of hard to explain like how GPD1 is kind of special. Um, but it's I think the way it's set up helps like foster this sense of community. Like what I mean is the layout. So you walk in and it's like one big room with a 30, 45, and 60-degree wall on one side. And then you have like a vertical wall and a couple training boards on the other side. And so you're mostly climbing in this room. And then if you go down to the left, there's another room with like campus board, hang boards, tread wall, and two more climbing walls that were kind of like put in after the gym originally opened. And then there's a weight room in the back. So it's mostly just like a big room that's not huge. Like you can see everyone in the room, and it's not huge, so you kind of have to sit next to people and you can see everyone climbing pretty
Hmm.
much all the time. You can see the walls, there's nothing hindering your vision. And so I think that's nice to be able to like stand in the room, see everyone climbing, see everyone who's around, talk, chat, like go from wall to wall pretty easy. Um, and yeah, everyone is psyched and everyone is there to either climb or train, and there's not really a whole lot else going on. Um, and yeah, I think it just like draws people who are really psyched, and when you get them all together, it feels special.
Love that breakdown. Yeah, it's like you can cheer somebody on from a couple walls away. It's that
Yeah,
small of a room. And people do. And so you get this kind of room energy, not just a localized wall energy. Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
very cool. Very cool. Shall we switch gears and talk about China Beach?
I mean, that's the
I
whole
thought you'd
that's
never
the whole
ask.
point.
Well, let's start with a question from a listener. Mia asks, would she like to hear about the first time you saw China Beach? I believe she was
Oh my
there, so she has some
gosh.
insider knowledge.
Yeah, yeah, I guess like for those
Tell
who
us
don't
about
know,
it.
Mia is my partner and was with me the first time I saw China Beach. And yeah, I think there was like some anticipation around it. We had planned a trip to Rumney, like a nice like 5-day trip. And before the trip, I was like researching some things, some routes, like what I'd be interested in, trying to like pick something out that I felt really excited about. And I stumbled across China Beach and was like, wow, this thing looks pretty awesome. People are talking really highly about it. Like, I'm really interested. I want to at least like go touch the holds, like go look at it. Like, the grade is like way above anything I've tried. And I was like, I'll just like go see, what it looks like. So we walk up to Waimea um and Waimea is like a usually a pretty busy crag. Like you kind of have to like snake around the back and you like come around the corner and there's China Beach. And so you kind of like, I'm like walking back there anticipating you come around the corner and it's just like this huge wall, just like kind of in my face with these like really pronounced like white and black streaks running down it. It's like beautiful. And uh, I was like, this is so cool. And I walked up I remember like climbing up onto the little ledge, and like walking up to the start holds and kind of like looking at it and looking at it from the bottom. And I was like kind of staring at it for a while, I think. And then I turned around and I told Mia, like, I I think I'm like in love with this rock climb. This thing is absolutely beautiful and it's
You hadn't
so
gotten on it
cool.
yet.
And I hadn't even climbed it yet. Like I was just looking at it and I was like, "Oh my God." And I like don't say that about a lot of climbs. I've never said that about a rock climb before. And so uh it's like kind of embarrassing, like I'm such a nerd, but also um that's how like what an impact it had just looking at it. It was pretty awesome. Yeah. And then I
Wow.
knew I was like, I'm about to have a really long relationship with this rock climb.
Wow. I feel that moment a little bit every time I turn the corner because it is so beautiful. And even the black parts of the rock kind of glisten with the quartz crystals.
Hmm.
But
Totally.
man, Andrew Palmer said something a little bit similar when he first turned the corner. I think he said he knew that that wall was going to be important in his life. He didn't really know why, but the sense that, oh yeah, I'm going to be here. I'm going to spend a lot of time here. This is going to mean a lot to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's just like it's so pronounced. It's like it's just waiting for you when you come around the corner it's and it's like yeah, it's pretty cool.
And so you hadn't climbed 514 at the time?
No.
So,
No, I actually think when I started climbing it, I hadn't climbed 513. And so it was like really a pretty big jump from anything I had sent. Um, and I knew it, I was like, this is really a huge project and a huge reach, but I got to start somewhere and I'm psyched on it. And that's what I know, like I could try something else, but I just would be thinking about China Beach.
absolutely. So
No,
when did you
fair.
get on it?
I think I got on it for the first time a year ago.
It
Yeah,
wasn't
it
that
was
day?
it was about a year ago. No, it was that day, but that day was a
Okay.
year ago.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember what happened even. I was pretty nervous. I was pretty nervous to get on it at all. I was like, this, I have no idea how this is gonna feel. Um, and the opening moves I felt pretty okay on, getting up to the rest before you enter the steep section. Um, and so I was like, okay, like super nervous. And then the first time I entered the steep section, when you reach up into the undercling, like kind of jug almost, I was like, I was so stressed. And I remember like trying to I made the clip and then I was like, take, like I'm so stressed out and not sure what I'm getting myself
Intimidating.
into. It's very intimidating. Yeah. And it it was, yeah, the like first attempt, totally like uncharted waters here, like looking up, knowing that the feet were going to be slippery, I was very nervous. Yeah.
Yeah. That and then that undercling section is so cryptic.
Yeah.
Did you have some beta or were you figuring it out as you went?
So I watched a couple videos before I went to Rumney. So I like had an idea. I didn't really study it like, foot by foot movement or anything like that. But I did get really lucky because I think it was it was like while I was doing this first kind of like attempt hang feel the moves out, um, there was another climber who had been working on it for a while, who had the whole thing like really so dialed, and he walked up while I was hanging and was like, "Do you want beta?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I would love beta. Like, if you got it, give it to me." And he like totally gave me all the little micro betas and all the information he knew. He even like told me how to reach out to the quick draws on Jaws and like climb up
Hmm.
that in order to like clip up
Yep.
China Beach so that I could like project the top of it. And so having him there and like telling me all of those things was super helpful for my projecting during that trip. And I think yeah, it was really helpful. I don't feel like it took away from getting to know the route because I still like I don't I still feel like I had to understand each movement in order to feel comfortable on it. Like he could be like, put your foot here and grab this hold here, and then I do this and that. But those moves, especially in the steep section, like they're pretty insecure. So it like getting to know them, doing them over and over, it felt like I was still like learning the route. Not completely on my own because I have help, but to some extent, like in my body, kind of learning it.
Yeah, the positions and the movement and the actual way you grab the holds has so much depth. It really does feel like a thing that just even if you know the sequence and you're set on your sequence, you kind of have to know. We had this ongoing conversation with when Nina was there around which of all the holds do you feel like you're friends with, like good friends with, and which of the holds do you feel like maybe you're not the best friends with yet, or you're on again, off again. Some of those holds are so particular in how you really need to
Yeah.
grab them,
Yeah.
and they change from one position to another. Like the holds will
Yeah,
change.
totally. Yeah, there are definitely some holds that I'm friends with and some holds that I'm not sure if they like me that much. But like the undercleaning at the top, which I know some people like kind of knuckle into a little bit, like crimp.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I like use it as I think I get 2 fingers in there, and I love that hold.
Cool.
I feel like I'm always hitting that hold the way I want to, and I can like really trust it, and it feels like it's there for me when I need it.
That's cool. That took me a while to make friends with. I ended up doing what Michael does and crimping the outside.
Yeah.
So I have to like come into it nestling the index finger in so I can cram all 4 fingers in and then just close down, and I can't get it deep. When I tried getting it
Yeah.
as a pocket, it just felt like the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The least friendly hold is in the groove, like the slot for your pinky.
Oh, the
Where
left hand?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
not a
totally
poor
agree.
hold, but it's just mean. And the body position is so weird, right? I remember the important thing was to keep my lower hand like super engaged until I moved my feet into the right position so that I could settle into my higher hand.
and then you shift. So you get the finger lock. This is kind of middle of the bottom section.
Yeah.
And then you get your feet up, and then you kind of shift your weight onto this mean finger lock to make the clip. And it probably tears a hole in your finger.
Yeah.
So I the like probably the first couple times I tried that move, I was yeah, there's like that little notch on the left hand I'm talking about, and I was getting my finger on it, and it felt like I was getting my finger stuck, and I'm not a trad climber, and I was like terrified of that hold for a while, and I hear you talk about the finger lock, but I'm not doing a finger lock. I'm like grabbing that hold high and like trying to avoid sliding down on it because it
Oh,
scares
interesting.
me.
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes sense. I mean, I've
Yeah.
definitely fallen from the finger lock, and it takes a chunk out of your finger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that is like the probably that is the least friendly hold, and one of the I think the only hold that takes a significant amount of skin.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything else is like pretty comfortable, which is nice.
Yeah, some of
Well,
the
there's the crux
spiky crimps
sawtooth.
up top are like get your fingertip skin, but it's not really that bad.
Yeah, yeah, fingertip skin for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so still on this first day when you're trying China Beach, do you try the top? And was your experience on top super different from the bottom?
Yeah, I tried the top, and the experience was a little different where, I didn't feel like my eyes were gonna explode because I was like so tense on these underclings and like the tension throughout my whole entire body was gonna like make me explode like the bottom boulder. The top boulder is like more in my wheelhouse, and I feel more comfortable. I felt like the crimps were nice and the feet were nice, but the moves were big, and I wasn't I wasn't really sticking the moves, but I was like, oh, okay, I can see how this works. And it took me some time to get a little more comfortable, like smearing when I need to like do a big move and get get all the way out there when I needed to. Because the moves at the top are pretty big and powerful in a different way than the bottom boulder.
We've got a video of the top. Let's see if I can.
Me? Is it me?
Uh huh.
Oh. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
There
an
you go.
amazing looking day.
Yeah, it was a nice day. I think these holds, these crimps felt pretty good that day, in my
Yeah.
opinion. See,
Yeah.
I smear my foot there, and I
Yeah, I see
wasn't
that.
doing that the first day for sure.
Trust it. You got it. Come on.
See, I was pretty tired
Come on,
here, but I was
get
like,
it.
I'm on the
Fight.
hold
You still
that I
got it.
love. I'm just gonna
Fight.
go.
Fight. Yeah.
And here, I don't usually grab
Come on,
that
yeah.
hold
Take a breath.
on with my right hand, but
Yeah.
Here.
I was pretty desperate, and so I grabbed it and I cliffed.
Yeah, Kara.
I never touched that hold.
I
I
didn't
don't think I
notice
knew it
it
existed.
until
Come on, Kara.
yeah,
Come
I
on,
didn't
Kara.
notice it until this trip. There was a huge tick mark on it,
Oh, interesting.
and I forget who it was like at the crag and
Mhm.
saying like, yeah, I use this, blah blah blah, but I can't remember who it was.
Jed uses that hold.
It was Jed. Okay.
I think Maddie Zane commented on that hold when he was on the podcast, but he only knew about that hold because he was working either Astroglide or China Glide, and it's the last hold when you traverse into China Beach. But I think Jed uses that.
I could see using it and then sorting your hands to make this big move different. Like
Did
maybe you could get that hold and then go like this and then go like that, and you're like an inch and a half closer.
Yeah, I had that thought. I had the same thought, and I haven't tried it.
Yeah.
And I feel mostly confident on most of these moves, but I'm like this season I want to kind of dial that big last
Yeah.
crux move at the top. And so I was thinking maybe while I'm projecting it, I'll try once or twice,
Yeah.
see if sorting things around helps. It might just be more moves than it's worth.
Mm-hmm. And also you
What's
lose the compression, right? Because you've
Yeah.
lost a side pull, so you don't have the kind of compressive force to help you. So I mean, it could be like swings and roundabouts, right? You like lose as much as you gain.
Right.
Yeah.
But worth a try.
Interesting. So you're thinking, Michael, using that traverse hold to get the right hand on the top of the tee.
Yeah.
Just like a interesting. Yeah. That does give you a couple more inches. Have either of you seen Joe Kinder's beta from Uncommon Ground? That's pretty
I
wild.
have,
So
but
from
it's
here,
not internalized.
yeah,
Yeah,
from
I
here.
would say the same thing.
So from here, he goes left hand, Gaston into the finger lock, not the top of the tee, into the finger lock. And then he uses that hold up and right and uses that to do this little shuffle to get his right hand in the finger lock. And then does the normal. Yeah, that's the face Michael made is my reaction as well. It does not seem like the easiest way. It seems like the worst of all worlds. But
Oh,
seems
I
to
remember
work for
we
him.
had this discussion, and my speculation was he was like just getting through it for filming and wasn't like using actual beta.
Actual beta.
That was my
Yeah.
speculation, but unproven.
Anyway, one of the things I do remember working it with you, Kara, is that you always looked so fluid and comfortable on the top. Like these moves, like you were pretty tired this day,
I was pretty
and
exhausted. I had gotten
you're
lost trying to go to the Prudential. So
no, no.
I don't know
Why
if
were
you've
you
ever
going?
been to the Prudential. I haven't still. Um, and it's like almost November. There are no leaves on the trees, and the sun was beating down on me, hiking around looking for the Prudential, just slipping on leaves. Yeah, I was exhausted. But yeah, so that's where I was at when I tried this. Um, After my like hour and a half long hike. But I love those moves at the top. It feels like, I mean, apart from the huge like last huge move, the the top crux, coming out of the break feels like super fun to me. Like it feels it like a treat or something. I love those moves.
That's maybe a good time to pivot, and I'm really curious what your thoughts are on what makes China Beach good. Like thinking about what makes good movement from your perspective, route setting, and just from what you like to climb as a climber. Like, what do you think it is about that movement? You know, maybe especially with the top that makes it. Because I think many people have had that same comment. I mean, I've definitely experienced that. The top moves feel so heroic. Like, for
Hmm.
me, they're really challenging, but I still love that movement.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not that everyone likes the same thing, but I can kind of speculate like why people like certain routes and stuff, but like it changes depending on who's climbing it and how they like what they like to climb and stuff. But yeah, I like the top moves because it is like kind of hero climbing. You're on, in my opinion, pretty good holds with pretty good feet, and the moves are really big, and so when you hit them, you're like, whoa, I am rock climbing, and and it feels really cool to stick a really big move, and there's like some balance to a couple of the moves too that I really like
Hmm.
the move out of the break, you hit the crimp, and then when you get your foot up into the break and have to drop in, I love that move. That is like one of my favorite moves because it's like this special kind of balance almost to find the right position to steady yourself, and then you get to kind of do a big move out of it that feels really cool. Then like kind of like now I can't remember if I switch feet or like bump into the side pole first, but I guess I step up and hit the side pole and get into the undercling.
Mm-hmm.
And this move I also absolutely love, like switching feet and getting the really high foot on this like undercling hold, and you have to like get the body position right where you're flagging and you come up to another pretty good hold, but the movement is tricky but pretty rewarding. Feels like really good when you stick it.
There's another
And
balancy move there. You have to find
yeah,
that almost that plumb line or that tipping point where you can transition to that hold. And the holds that you're going for are kind of blocked. So you
yeah,
can't really just snatch them. You have to actually grab them. You have to create this moment of stillness at the apex so you can grab them in just the right
yeah.
way.
Yeah, there's kind of like this good uh balance where like you get a move where like the hole's not blocked, and then you've got a move where like the hold is blocked, and it seems like the one like consistent theme in China Beach is like it really feels like pretty balancy in both boulder problems at some point.
Hmm.
And I think moves like that, I think, feel kind of like it almost feels like you're putting on some sort of like magic trick. um, where it seems like it shouldn't really work, but when you get the body position right, it feels really secure.
Yeah, totally. The move that stands out to me on the bottom section is that I've called it the move, where you've got a right hand Gaston and then your left foot's really high and you're reaching up into the side pull, and it's really steep and yet somehow feels like as bouncy as slab climbing or maybe some sort of trad climbing lie back move that's super technical, super precise.
Yeah, definitely. That's one I was thinking of. And I also like really love that move. I think it's just kind of like a especially unique kind of climbing move.
Yeah,
Where
where
there's like a
you can pull
little,
too hard on that one, and it's
yeah,
mostly
there's
just
like a
about
fine line.
leaning and like finding a pivot.
Yeah, and when you hit the moves, every move is a move. There's usually some dynamic aspect to each move. You can't really static too many of the movements that I'm aware of. Maybe if you're really, really strong. Most people don't static the movements. And so then it really feels like when it's flowing, you're getting kind of a little bit lucky each time, like doing these pretty classic moves, one after another.
Yeah. Yeah, almost like there's some sort of like air lifting you up.
Okay, so thought experiment. What if you were to set the top in a gym?
Okay, I think the top is really hard to set in a gym. I've tried, um, and and I think that it's like a pretty controversial boulder problem. Um, and I think like the beginning is really hard, which as a boulder itself, being approachable, I think, makes it popular. So having like a pretty hard start to the boulder is not ideal for in a gym, in my opinion. And
Mhm.
um and I think that the one of the hardest parts is to find like a balance between getting the moves at the right distance, um, but like not having it so that you can't really skip things or just like pull through and miss the moves. That was like the challenge I found when I was setting it. I
Forcing
was
the
like
sequence.
forcing the sequence is tricky because you're doing big moves um, on pretty okay holds and with pretty okay feet. And in a gym, people will just yank on stuff on footholds and really like just skip the total sequence. So trying to get that right, I think, is really difficult. I have found in my experience that like trying to set it a little bit easier than how I think it feels on the rock is helpful to kind of like get the moves and like the positioning of all the holds and then like tweak it from there to get it like maybe make the hold worse or turn it a little bit or something like that to make it feel a little more difficult, or like closer to the difficulty level. But I did try your Kilter simulators,
You
Rajiv, which
did.
like yeah, I tried them. And I thought they're very different because there's two of the top boulder problem.
Yeah.
And
One's quite a bit easier, I
yeah,
think, than the actual route. And then the other one's maybe, I mean, I haven't been able to do the harder one. It
I
feels
also didn't do the harder one. I thought it was wicked hard. Also, I was trying them at 40 degrees because I didn't want to move the
40
Kilter board.
degrees?
I know,
Oh
I
my
know.
God. I was like 20, 25 degrees
I know.
maybe.
I know. I was like, I know this is supposed to be at like 20 degrees, but I don't want to move the Kilter board. Um,
Okay, that's insane. You did the first simulator at 40 degrees? That's
I
got to
did,
be like
yeah.
V10 or something.
No, it's not. No, no, no,
It's
no.
not.
No, it's not.
Okay. Okay, so what did you think?
Yeah, I thought they were really fun. I could definitely see some similarities with the movement and the top boulder problem, um, like starting on the underclings and with your feet kind of spread and going up to the crimps. I thought like that made sense, and I think it's like a little more challenging, it seemed, on the Kilter board to capture like the last couple moves with
The rock over.
the rock over with the high foot into the T hold, yeah, and then out. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, and I think on one of them, like I think it's the version 2, the one with less holds on it. Um,
Yeah.
I thought the moves were huge. I thought they were just like so big, but I
So
also was
big.
trying them at 40 degrees. So I know they'd be like a little better at 20, but um I thought they were pretty big. And I kind of thought, yeah, I thought they were pretty big.
This
So
is
I
okay. That is awesome feedback. And this kind of goes into what a simulator is and how to use it. So both of these simulators are non-forced simulators. Like you have to do the beta. They're training simulators. So if you're just climbing it, the beta is not forced. But if you decide to use the same beta you do on China Beach, maybe they feel a little bit more similar or they're useful for that purpose. That was sort of how I approached it because as you've mentioned, it's super hard to actually legitimately force the sequence. The other
yeah,
thing about simulators is that they're specific, if they're not forced, they're specific to beta and they're also specific to dimensions. So uh, I'm 6'1" plus 4. And what's your height
I'm
and
I'm 5'9" even.
okay. And so here's the crazy thing. That first move, the nominally the crux out of the break, going up to the spike, to me, in my head, it feels like full extension. Like clearly that's not the case. You know, I'm a bit weaker, I think, than most people trying it. But in my head, I'm like pulling hard as far as I can go to reach up to that hold. So when I set a similar difficulty of that sort of move on the kilter, I think I probably overestimated the distance because I was trying to get it to feel similarly difficult, and the holds are a bit better and more in cut, and maybe the angle is less steep, and the feet are better. So, yeah, I could totally see how maybe the actual distances were a bit more than the route.
Yeah, the and the well, and with the first simulator that I actually did, I thought that move out of the break to the spike, I thought that felt really similar and felt really good. Um,
Oh, cool.
yeah, and then there were some other things where like, yeah, I could kind of like skip a couple things here, and I felt like I had an extra foot here
Hmm.
with that one, but then with the other one, I was like, I actually was kind of like, I think there are 2 feet missing, and like I don't know how you get out left, but I felt like there was a left foot missing, and I use an
Yeah.
intermediate
Yeah.
to stop and then go, and then like an inside right foot to go up, right. Um,
That second simulator is definitely a work in progress, and I think it would be like find your own feet, find the feet that feel like the route to you as you go
oh,
out.
okay. Yeah.
Because I just have not, I've never stuck the first few moves, so I haven't gotten to the point where I'm trying to work on the traverse out left. Um, Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to try that first simulator at 40 now. That sounds
Yeah.
kind of challenging.
Yeah, if you're looking for something extra to climb, yeah.
Michael, do you have a kilter board near you? You got to get on this.
No,
Got to
this
get on
is
this train.
this is great. I've never been on a kilter board, but on my trip that I'm going on next week. I'm going there. There's a gym I'm going to that has a kilter board,
Hell yeah.
so I'll check it out.
Nice.
Awesome. The
The Klatter Center in Oslo.
Super cool.
Yeah, I am sure I didn't say that right, but they have a kilter board. So will I easily be able to find this boulder problem?
Yeah, China Beach. It's the only thing that shows
Okay,
up.
cool. Yeah, I don't even have the app or anything because I've never been around a kilter board.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a moon board at the climbing gym, and I have a tension board just in the room that way, but never kilter board.
I haven't searched the moon board to see if there's possible simulators there. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I haven't either. I don't board very often. That was my first time on the Kilter board. It was pretty fun.
Cool.
The Kilter board is pretty fun. Friendly grips. Okay, so speaking of simulators, you've set the bottom of China Beach.
Oh,
I
that
tried
sounds
to set
so
the bottom.
hard.
Right.
It's not perfect, but similar moves.
Okay, let me pull this up.
Okay, before you pull that up, I'm going to nominate China Beach to be the first route that is like perfectly recreated in a climbing gym, like out of, I don't know, actual wall
3D.
material.
3D printed holds.
Or just
Or
like,
are
no,
you thinking-
the whole wall is 3D printed to be China Beach.
Yeah.
And then you can just put other holds around it for other routes.
Yeah, we talked about this on the previous episode, and the idea has been percolating, and I really like it. It's like you can set China Beach, but then the walls around it are blank enough and at a cool enough angle that you can go crazy setting other stuff as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where's it going to be? Which of us is going to open a climbing gym? Who wants to open a climbing gym?
I don't know.
Okay, Michael, you're seeing this for the first time. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the crack switch at the
Okay.
beginning.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that.
Yep. Feet high. And then here's that.
Cross.
I don't know, dude. This looks like a million times better than what I was expecting.
Okay.
The movements are
thanks.
similar, right?
I think it looks great.
Yeah, I mean they were like getting matching the rail is not exactly how I do it when I climb China Beach, but I think like getting the shoulder move is more important for me in a simulator than getting like the hand moves exactly like
That.
Yeah, it at least like keeps the muscle memory.
right. And yeah, and it seemed like the way just the point of putting the boulder up was to fill the 45 wall in. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna set a boulder and I'm gonna try to get it like as close to this as I can, but it's not really like the priority. And so it just kind of it ends up climbing in a certain way, and you can put your feet like. If you see in the beginning when I cross and match and I'm going into the shoulder move, I think I have a heel on the start hold.
I immediately thought, there's no heel there.
Right.
And it climbed well that way, so
Yeah.
I was like, I'll leave it. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the consensus on its quality, like from people who don't even know what China Beach is?
Everyone thought the shoulder move was really hard.
Wait,
And
this move?
yeah, I think it was like really shouldery because you're shouldering into it's a pinchy hold and it's slopey. It's not as like in cut as what's on China Beach. And then And then the top was pretty bouncy. I saw a lot of people drop it there, just because getting the feet out and high wasn't intuitive for a lot of people.
Right. Sequence wise, you're not usually thinking of doing this, like getting your left foot up where your left hand is.
Yeah.
Was this
Yeah.
sequence forced? This like turn right hand to a Gaston and then do the move?
I think it was pretty consistent that you had to, that was the beta. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
cool.
that I remember this was like maybe, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. But I think I remember people trying to bump through those two that are next to each other from
Yeah.
the big rail.
Like
Um,
Cedric Lachot
and
on the action.
I don't think it ended up helping you very much, and so I think you
Oh.
wanted to do it this way.
Yeah.
Was it perhaps around Halloween?
Yeah. Wow.
No, no, that's a simulation of the actual China Beach wall. There's so many spiders on that
So
wall.
many. You just gotta brush them off and stay focused.
Oh
Oh
man,
man.
And they're
but
massive.
in the new, there are huge spiders like that you get in certain times of the year. Just by the way,
Oh no. China Beach too. Did you
really,
encounter
I don't
any
remember
Kara on that
spiders on
trip?
China Beach.
Something was different. There was one
Oh,
go, and it wasn't the first day I was on it, but there was one go where I brushed off four spiders that were like the body was like an inch in
oh
diameter.
my
They were these
God.
big fuzzy spiders.
Oh, that sounds like the spiders we get in West Virginia.
And you know that finger lock
Yikes.
hold that none of our friends, it's kind of my friend. I had the finger lock, and then I clipped, and then I was going into the pocket, and I felt something fuzzy, and I like, and then the spider fell out, and then I fell.
No, 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 no. I have
But
nightmares about this.
generally, I feel like they're so big, you can just, they're like fuzzballs. You can just like flick them off, and they're fine. They're not the small. They're so big, they're almost comically large and fuzzy, and they don't seem that scary, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that was really cool. I think I like the fact that you didn't try and set it super literally, and you just hit a few of the really interesting and unique body positions, like the crack switch and then the move up
Hmm.
at the top.
Yeah,
Yeah, it looked like you were climbing on the route itself. Like I had this
Yeah.
familiarity of recognizing some of those body positions.
that's cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the like the tricky part of trying to set a simulator is, yeah, is like if you try to force it too much, it can be really convoluted and not enjoyable to climb. And
Hmm.
uh, yeah, I think going into it, I've tried to set simulators for probably like a couple different rock climbs, and like going into it, it's like, okay, I'm gonna try today and see how it goes, but like not set like a hard expectation on it, and I feel like that's when it comes out the best. And knowing like I can try again next time if it's not exactly right.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, switching gears a little bit.
Okay.
Tell us how it's going. The the trip, and how you're thinking about trying it next. Like, how's the projecting going? Because when I met you on the trip in October, you were very kind of hesitant about the route. I think you mentioned you felt like you didn't have any business on it, and then very quickly afterwards, you two hung it like a pretty authoritative two hang,
Yeah.
and it seemed to be
Yeah.
coming together super quickly.
Yeah, I think I mean, I definitely surprised myself that day. I was not really expecting that. And I remember coming down after that burn and being like, that was awesome and that felt really good, and I did it in like three hangs in I remember you and Bryce being like, that was two hangs. Like, I didn't even like
Yeah.
really realize it.
I only hung a few times. Like, no, you only.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
like,
it's just two
cool, that
hangs.
felt good. And then I was like, oh wow, like that's pretty awesome. That's like way better than I expected. Like in my projecting process, I've been trying to set like small little goals, like incremental small goals that I feel like are truly achievable in this trip or like this weekend or something. Um, and so I think I can't remember what my goal was that day. Oh, I think my goal was climbing to the break, like climb to the break without falling. And I did that, and I was like, hell yeah. Like
Yeah.
I'm so amped up. Like that felt pretty like a reach goal. Like my low key goal was like do the first I think 4 clips and then I climbed to the break and I was like, wow, that was awesome. And so then everything after that was kind of a bonus and maybe that took a little pressure off, like kind of
Mm.
setting this goal that was like, okay, I think this is achievable and I'm going to try to do that. And then anything after that is bonus. And so that was probably the best day I've had on it. Um, and that was October. That was in October. So then I think I saw you maybe like one other time after that, if I remember right.
Hmm.
Um, and I was exhausted. I think that's when you got the video, and that was kind of a bust, but it was good to like go and put the moves on and like yeah, keep them like in my head and familiar. So I haven't been back since November. I think it was like the first week of November or something. And I haven't been on a rope since November. So I've been bouldering a lot and I'm trying to get on a rope this week and I'm hoping to catch some warmer weather at the end of March in the next couple of
Mm.
weeks, to kind of go and reacquaint myself with China Beach a little bit. And then I have a trip lined up early April for like 5 days. Um,
Nice.
and I think my goal for the trip will really be getting out of the break, like climbing through the break, stick the crimps, and if I could do that, I'd feel really good because I think that is one of the hardest things to do is climbing out of the break from the bottom. Because I feel like if I can get out of the break, I can do the next couple moves. And then if I do the next couple moves, I've got like one move left, right?
Yeah, it's just the Iron Cross, and you've
Yeah,
you fought your way to the T kind of semi rest when you're pretty
right.
tired. Like in that clip we looked at earlier, on that undercling, your hand fell out, and you were basically like one pad, two fingers, and you
Yeah, I
still
totally
reeled it
was.
in and made it to the rest, or
I
the shake,
remember
the light
there
shake.
being like a split second where I was like setting up and I really like set my foot up high and just with like everything tried to get over my body and is that hold loves
That
me.
hole is your
I love
friend,
that
even
hold.
under strange circumstances. That hole is still your friend. That's awesome.
Yeah, so yeah, I've been doing a lot. I've been trying to do some like power endurance. I'm like trying to boulder for fun and I'm trying to try hard moves while I'm bouldering, and I'm trying
Mhm.
to do some campusing because I think my power, like at the top, I need some power there. So I'm doing some of that, um, just like maintaining with weights to kind of keep everything keep everything like healthy. And yeah, I mean mostly trying to stay healthy, but also trying to incorporate like some more endurance and power endurance stuff and see how it goes in the spring. Try to get out of the break.
On training, we have a question from a listener. Suzie asks, You also run marathons, and how does that training fit with or interfere with climbing training?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's hard to juggle sometimes. So I kind of cycle through climbing a lot, running a lot, climbing a lot, running a lot. It's hard to do both at the same time. And so I usually will pick a marathon to run like once a year. And so a marathon training cycle is like 4 months on average. So usually like 16 weeks or so, depending on who you're talking to. And so that is a really hard thing to balance. In the beginning, like the volume is not that much for running, and so I can kind of get away with climbing hard. But I have noticed that as my marathon training volume goes up, my power goes down. Um, and it could be because I'm fatigued from running so much, or it could just be that I'm losing power from running. But I just try to rearrange my training schedule in a way that's like realistic and try not to like overtrain in any way. If I'm running, lifting weights and climbing, I'll like back off on my weight, on like how heavy my weights are. Um, because I'm like fatiguing myself a lot, and the point with that is not really to gain, it's really to maintain while I'm training for a race. Um, and so I try to let myself have more fun with climbing if I'm training for a race. And then if I'm training for climbing, I'll run a lot less. And I can't do both at the same time. Something's gotta give.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like an order of magnitude more capacity in terms of general training than I have. So that's
Yeah.
kind of wild to me to be able to, even in the same year, go through an intense training, running
Yeah.
training cycle and also
Yeah.
climbing.
And I'm trying to like time everything with the climbing season now. Now that I'm like really psyched on China Beach and I want to try it in the fall and in the spring.
In the spring.
Those are also great times to go running. Um, so yeah, kind of like I was I was ramping up for marathon training at the end of last climbing season. And I think that the running I started to do actually helped my performance on China Beach towards the end of that season. Um,
How so?
well, I think that I had a little bit more endurance um, towards the end, and I could tell. I think I also like I think I was like a little bit. I had a little more climbing weight at the beginning of the season, and so I think like when I'm running a lot and climbing less, like my body tends to like tone down a little bit. Um, that's just like how it goes, I guess. Um, and so I think like those two things like helped my performance a little bit. And and I kind of made a mental note about it to make sure that I'm like the weeks leading up to going back to China Beach to make sure that I am running like twice a week or something like kind of casual like that. I think it's good for my endurance for sure.
Yeah, I guess since you primarily boulder, maybe that running base is really help you translate that to the wall. Because I think from the outside, it's surprising and impressive, like how quickly the route's coming together for you, given what your normal training is. And the running, I think, fills in a little bit of that picture.
Yeah, totally. I don't get on ropes as much as I like. Like bouldering's so convenient, especially living in the city. Like I live a 10-minute walk from the gym and it's easy to just like pop over there. not like coordinate with anyone, and boulder. And rope climbing feels like such an ordeal for whatever reason. And yeah, it's nice to get some endurance training in where I can.
Cool. I have a kind of a reflective big picture question. So this is also from Mia, and she mentioned that there are sometimes parts of climbing culture that can maybe get on your nerves. Maybe the competitive, kind of male dominated scene at some gyms, but maybe China Beach exists in kind of a separate world or represents something different. Does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah, it does resonate with me. Um, and, and yeah, I mean, I think there's something refreshing about getting outside uh, to a place that isn't super local. Like I'm in New York City, and Rumney, New Hampshire is like a 6 hour drive away. Um, and so even though there's a good chance I'll run into some people that I know up there, it's not like super local like the bouldering crags around the city. And I think it is refreshing, kind of like revitalizing to kind of like get out and get away from the scene and everything that's kind of like socially tied to climbing, which is also like an aspect of why we love climbing, right? Like it is a social sport and that can be really great, but I think it can also be a lot sometimes. And um yeah, I think getting out to China Beach, it felt like I found this rock climb I'm really interested in. I feel like I'm really like climbing it because I want to, and I'm psyched on it, and I'm not it's not it's not for any other reason besides that really. And being outside and all that, yeah, it feels really good to kind of like clear my head, and I'm just like climbing this rock climb because I want to.
Yeah, there's a purity to that. For me, it in some ways takes me back to why I liked climbing in the first place. It was, just
Yeah.
some rocks that maybe aren't even objectively inspiring, but I looked at them and got psyched and wanted to climb them. And there's something very essential about that. That sometimes it's not the easiest to access, especially when the whole world is climbing now. There's
Hmm.
climbing gyms in the Bay Area are incredibly crowded, like just packed like sardines, shoulder to shoulder during the peak hours. And there are so many gyms opening up, and um, it's nice to get on get on a route that's, yeah, it just reminds me of why I like climbing.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Like, uh, yeah, it feels like it's like we love climbing and we're like very psyched on it, and so it's really fun to have so much going on, like new developments, new trends and route setting, new gyms, new people, and all that. But it can be like a little overwhelming. So it is nice to kind of like get away and kind of get back to just basic climbing and unplug sort of.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I met you on the trip, I was more unplugged than I'd been in years, and also I just kind of reconnected with climbing maybe 6 months before, uh, and it was just the perfect setting to, yeah, feel a bit unplugged and, yeah, just
Yeah,
have a
Rumney
good
is
time on the route.
perfect for that too. Like the vibe at Rumney, even though it's like in the Northeast where, you would assume it would be sort of less laid back. Rumney is more laid back than like the super crags of the United States, like the Red or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It feels like kind of humble or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's yeah, it's definitely like laid back, even when it's busy. It's a
Hmm.
good spot to get away to, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Any directions you want to take it, Kara, or anything that we didn't cover that you'd really like to dig into,
Hmm. I
or
don't
Michael?
know. I'm not very good at being put on the spot. Well, I guess like one of the things that we kind of have chatted about before a little bit, like China Beach, if it set in a gym, in a rock climbing gym, and like what people would think about it and
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing. We like touched on it a little bit here and there. Um, I guess we don't have to circle back actually. We kind of like
Well,
talked about it.
no, let's do it. Let's do it. I have more thoughts. Okay, so let's
Okay.
say, are you thinking boulder problem or route? Like, let's actually put ourselves in this scenario where there's a gym that has China Beach.
Okay.
So boulder problem or route?
Okay, so this is hard. This is like I'm used to bouldering in the gym and I'm used to setting boulders in the gym. So I always think of it as like two different boulder
Two
problems.
boulders. Yeah.
But I'm open to the thought experiment with a route, as I think it is a route and we could talk about it that way.
So a route would feel more natural to have this hard move crux in the middle. That it feels more natural in the context of a route. I mean, it is a great route. It builds, it builds, it builds. It's pretty power endurancey, and then there's this move that is like a crux, but it's not completely stopper. Um, that said, it would be like pretty insanely hard to put that route in a gym, and I feel like it probably wouldn't get that much traffic unless the gym's in one of the few areas where there are like 15A climbers
Yeah.
hanging around, just
It
twiddling their thumbs.
it's got the typical like structure of an indoor route though, right? Like power
Uh,
endurance, no big
Easy start.
rest.
Yeah,
Um,
Hmm.
it's pretty approachable start, which I think
yeah.
is key.
No big rest is key. Like indoor
Yeah.
routes tend to
Yeah,
try and avoid big rests.
It's really sustained and everything feels like it's mostly at the same level
Mhm.
too.
Hmm.
You don't
Hmm.
have like the crux is hard, but mostly because it's from the bottom.
Hmm.
And so I think that that is nice to have in a route where it's like, okay, this is pretty satisfying. I'm doing it. This is achievable. I'm at this level. I know I can do
It's
that move.
it's
Mhm.
like 514 climbing. It's sustained 514 climbing. Here's the thing that would be really a shocker, I think, for indoors. The level of detail in the beta and body positions that you need to get into to climb this route is like several levels above what you ever encounter in the gym. And like I would it I would be skeptical that anybody would be able to like activate that part of their brain and go deep enough to unlock that. Maybe you get 15A climbers who don't need to get that deep into the route, just kind of having fun pulling past, like Magos doing
Yeah.
laps on China Beach. But
Yeah, or like taking the time to figure it out. I feel like is a thing people don't like doing in the gym.
Mhm.
yeah,
People like want to try something like a couple times and be like, okay. But yeah, taking the time to figure out all the subtleties would maybe, yeah, deter some people from actually sending. But I do
Yeah.
think the clips are very good on China Beach.
Really?
I think they're good. Oh, you
Yeah, I
don't think
think
they're
so
good?
too.
I think
It's all
They're
it
all
is
like
they're
relative, yeah.
challenging.
I
They're
did
not
most of
easy.
them like at my waist, which means
Yeah.
like you don't have to pull out extra rope, which is a big plus.
Yeah, you can save energy clipping at your waist, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
they all like allow you to do that, really.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, the clips are perfect. Like you couldn't add an extra. There's no extra bolt you could add, and you wouldn't want to skip any clips unless you're Julian, who skipped the last clip. It's kind of scary. And they just get like nicely more and more spaced out as you climb higher and higher, and
Yeah.
it's all still safe.
Yeah.
And you are
Yeah,
clipping
and
at your waist, which is kind of cool.
the
Yeah.
falls are pretty safe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If the top were a boulder, I think it could be pretty interesting. You may have to add a couple of moves lead in so that it doesn't start with this mega hard move.
Yeah, kind of
Um,
a setup move.
One thought would be that you have to make the boulder like V11 to be able to force the sequence and have that kind of intricacy of movement. And maybe like that set of climbers would get a little deeper in the
Hmm.
movement a little more quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think I know we like talked about some of the holds being a little like finger locky and things. I think that would be kind of hard to replicate in the gym. But I do think for the most part, like the hold selection on China Beach is really nice, right? Like I'm really
Yeah.
focused on like my climbing and not like, oh my God, my hand is killing me, like my fingers hurt so
Yeah.
bad. This
Yeah.
sucks. You know, like it's pretty enjoyable climbing and I think that is something I appreciate about China Beach for sure.
The friction is kind of insane on those holds.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how is
Yeah.
it still so abrasive, almost as if they're brand new gym holds after all the traffic?
Yeah, it's great. That stuff just doesn't polish the same way that other stone does.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference for sure.
We get a
Especially
lot
on
of
those,
complaints. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, especially on the spike crimps coming out of the break. I feel like I need
That's
those
spike crimp.
textured.
Here's the other thing that's super different about China Beach versus indoor. The holds on China Beach, especially when it's at your limit, for me, can be impossible unless you grab them right. And then they can get very, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like the difference between grabbing the holds incorrectly and correctly is very large, much larger than the vast majority of holds indoors. And I think like to flip it around, it's sort of like digital versus or analog versus digital. That's kind of why I really like outdoor climbing. It's so much more interesting.
Yeah,
And
I
maybe
mean
why,
it
yeah.
feels like the holds are made for the route, right? Like if you took those holds and put them in a gym and tried to like put them on different routes at different angles and different moves, they might just feel wrong, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
they just work
Yeah.
really well in the way they're supposed to be grabbed or stepped on.
It's so wild that nature creates that. That's just so wild.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
yeah, but
pretty
nature,
wild.
a lot of routes are also bad, right? So it's
Yeah,
not,
that's true.
it's not like, oh, every route is like China Beach and they're all amazing, It's like
No,
truly,
there's a
but
reason
that
China
makes it
Beach.
truly special, right? Like there are
Yeah.
Yeah.
even things at
Yeah.
Rumney that are bad.
What?
Just like a real
No.
route setter. Some
Right.
days you get lucky and you get a good one. Some days they're really bad.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to like go up for the bus to drop my kid off. So
Cool. Maybe this is a good place to call it. This has been very fun for me. Kara, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it was super fun. Like, thanks for having me.
Keep us posted on the spring. There's always a slight chance I'll be able to make it out, but definitely in October I'll be out.
Okay, cool. I'll let you know.
Awesome.
you can be a second time guest after send.
Wow.
Absolutely. First,
right.
second time guest. Other than us, I guess. We're always here.